Big Blue fans, New York Giants on SI has long been your source for news and information on the best team in the Big Apple. Since 2000, I have been bringing you between the lines, giving you the X's and O's that make or break a season, and the performance evaluations that bring hope for the future or present an uncertainty. Now I bring that unique perspective to the microphone Monday through Friday with some of the most prominent voices in Big Blue Nation as we discuss the topics of the day. So come join us. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.
3, 2, 1,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. It is Tuesday. That means it is time for another watch party. Hard Knocks with the New York Giants preseason or off-season preseason, I guess it would be. This is episode 3. We've seen the teasers. We know what it was, episode 1 and episode 2. We've heard a lot about I've talked a lot about Joe Schoen and what seems to be the way he has devalued the running back position and what they're looking to do in this new regime. We saw the end of the second episode with the conversation between he and Saquon Barkley. I think we'll get more light on that today. We saw through the teasers that there's going to be discussion about Brian Burns and how they get the Brian Burns thing down. We know we see Mara involved. We can tell now that Mara was not on board, or Mara, excuse me, was not on board with not bringing Saquon back. Well, I shouldn't say he wasn't on board. I'll say that you can tell that he was not for not bringing Saquon back. And if we're being honest, I think that a lot of the brain trust inside that office, a lot of Joe Schoen's brain trust, at least the way that it was edited, it doesn't really seem like they're gung-ho on not having Saquon Barkley back as well. So when you look at the dynamics of this front office, it really is starting to look as if Joe Schoen was a lone wolf in this. I don't want to bring Saquon Barkley back. Now, does that mean that he was doing it for the wrong reasons? Does he really and truly believe that you don't need to be paying Saquon Barkley that much money when you're paying Daniel Jones that much money? Of course. Like, there's a bunch of different reasons why he could have possibly come to the decision that he didn't want to bring Saquon Barkley back. But at the end of the day, he didn't bring Saquon Barkley back, at least not on the money that Saquon Barkley wanted. I said this last week. I've said this on the Giant Issue podcast, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, make sure that you check it out. A Giant Issue podcast. Check it out on Apple Podcasts. Check it out on Spotify for sure. You can also check it out right here on the YouTube channel. If you've seen the first 2 episodes, hopefully you've enjoyed them. But I think that Joe Schoen sent Saquon Barkley out. He said, hey, will you give us a chance to match? Because in his mind, he 100% did not believe that Saquon Barkley was going to get the contract that he ended up getting from Philadelphia. So I want to see what happens when he finds out that that is the contract that Philadelphia gave Saquon or offered Saquon. I want to see if Saquon Barkley gave the Giants a chance to match. And if he knew, and if they gave Saquon gave them a chance to match and they said no, then I don't want to hear anybody else talking noise about Saquon Barkley. Now, if they gave him that, Saquon Barkley didn't give them a chance to match, now they have a little bit of a wiggle, right? They have a little bit of a place to say, this isn't the way we want to go. He never gave us a chance to match. Shout out to Jordan Zimmelton. Is it Zamiti? No, yeah, Zamiti. Jordan Zamiti says, I think for Joe Schoen, it mainly had to do with the cost of paying him. Of course it did. It always has to do with the cost of paying him. Zamiti also said lots of wear and tear, and he's also over 27. I really think that over 27 thing is ridiculous. I know that y'all like to throw that out there, but there's really there's no legitimate research to back that out. All we have is specific examples of players, but it's not as if we didn't see the greats running well into their 30s really well. It's not as if we didn't have somebody 31 years old lead the league in touchdowns on rushing touchdowns last year. It's not like we didn't have somebody 31 on rushing for 1,000+ yards last year. Like, this whole idea that medicine has gotten better so that bodies preserve better and that we all get better, but the only position in football that doesn't happen is at the running back position, is just it's maddening if I'm being honest about it. But I get it, because that's the thing that we've been fed. We've been fed that knowledge. We've been told that that's what happens. And so we run head first with it. We don't even try to just kind of look at things and go, okay, well, if 27 is the drop off, then why did they just play Christian McCaffrey? Right? Why did Christian McCaffrey get broken off after already getting a running back contract that people said was too much to give a running back? Why would the San Francisco 49ers double down on an extension that continues to make him the highest paid, one of the highest paid, or the highest paid running back, one of the highest paid players in the NFL, when he is of that age that everyone tells us is no longer, viable? So I look at things like that and I go, that doesn't really make any sense to me, but I get it, because again, that is what we've been sold. I'm looking for some fun-hearted stories in this episode. I'm looking to learn some things that I didn't know before. I'm looking to see some more personalities, because I think that is the part of Hard Knocks that I really love the most, is the opportunity to see or watch as new personalities develop. It's one of the things that I get a kick out of the most, is getting a chance to see who these guys are when they take their helmets off, right? And so the fact that this is the off season, we don't get as much of that as we would if this was the regular season, or even if they were doing it through training camp. But I think what we're getting to know more about the front office personnel and the people in the front office personnel. And I 100% think that there are going to be some guys in front offices that get promotions or get better jobs based off of the personality that they show during Hard Knocks. I think that will 100% be the byproduct of them being able to put faces to these people that are in the backdrop. It is 9:00. It is 9:00. So I am going to seek out the episode right now, and we're going to get this thing started, because I'm excited, and I know all of you are excited. Oh, good old commercials. I'll tell you, gotta love commercials on this. Once again, thank you to everybody who has, thank you for everyone who has come out to these watch parties. If you haven't watched it live, we had well over 1,000 people at least click on and view a portion of it for episode 1. We had well over 2,000 people click on it and at least view part of episode 2. And now at episode 3, I've also now started the Giant Issue podcast on SI on New York Giants, or excuse me, New York Giants on SI. And so it's going to be really interesting as we go along.
On Hard Knocks. Minnesota. It's impressive. How do you handle losing? I hate losing more than I love winning. I don't mind fucking Jews, man. That's what some dogs. What do you think he's going to win? 28. Somewhere in there, 28, 29. Like, all options are on the table still, Saquon. Giants have a bunch of decisions to make. 2 more years here in the Ring of Honor. Or do you want $1 million more to go somewhere else?
Saquon, the right thing to do is let you test the market. I'm not saying we're not going to get something done, but I think hopefully, you go out there, you see the market, and you say, you know what, I want to be here, and give us a shout back.
So right there, we see it that they made it a part of the beginning, the opening salvo. Saquon says, I already told you where I want to be. That doesn't just mean I already told you how much I want to get paid, but that is what it means. It also tells you, hey, I want to get paid this, and I want to get paid this by you guys. I think it's interesting because when you hear him talk about Saquon, he's saying stuff like, do you want to be in the Ring of Honor, or do you want to make $1 million more? That tells me that he did not value Saquon the way that other teams were valuing Saquon.
Saquon Barkley. So many eyes are on Saquon. Certainly can't rule out the possibility of Saquon going back to the Giants. Two franchise tag. Saquon Barkley was said time after time, I'll never be a New York Giant. The Giants have tried to get a deal done. Saquon Barkley has turned down several different offers from the Giants. There are really varying opinions about what the number is going to be for Saquon Barkley.
Hey, shout out to Simeon Toko. Appreciate you coming and viewing with us. Opening scene is Joe Schoen in his office, looking the way that a GM should look around this time, stressed.
To no one's surprise, teams are interested. The question has always been how much he'd command on the open market.
Saquon, is a ever-evolving conversation, engaging him and his agent both pre-market talks.
Just thought it was fair to let him go see what the market is. If it's something we're comfortable paying and he would want to come back here, then maybe we come to agreement. So you guys would be up for offering him something.
Yeah, 100%.
Give me 2 minutes, guys. Hello? Hey, Barry, what's up, buddy?
Hey, see, so right there again, he's in there talking to Burns. And within there, he says, so you guys are up for offering him something. And he's like, absolutely. And Joe Schoen gives a smile, like almost like, I don't understand it. Like almost like a you fools type of smile. And I'm interpreting, so I don't want you guys to think and take this for law. Like if you're watching it with me, tell me what you think when you're looking at it. Do I think the current state of the O-line was also a factor? I think that Joe Schoen decided to put that money somewhere else. The money that they wanted to pay Saquon Barkley essentially became the two offensive guards that they signed this offseason.
12.5 APY and 25 guaranteed, he'd be a Giant. Okay, all right. Well, I'll give you a call back. This may be above me. And then what you said again? Well, okay, so 12.5 you said on a 3-year. And then what you said the guarantee was? 25 guaranteed. Okay, so that's if I offered him today a 3-year deal at 12.5 APY and 25 guaranteed, he'd be a giant. Okay, all right, well,
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it.
Maybe above me.
Saquon Barkley gave them the offer.
3 for 12.5 APY and 25 guaranteed. There you go. We'll bring him down today. We'll fly you up. Do a press conference. All right. Appreciate you, buddy. All right. Okay. Hey, John, how you doing? Like, I talked to the agent, and the agreement all along was that he would come back to me with a chance to match it. I told the agent, I said, if we match that deal, he's going to be a giant. He's like, well, he hemmed and hawed. He's like, I'm not saying that. He's like, we got a lot of work to do if that happens.
Okay, so he's saying that the agent said that wouldn't get it done, but he was telling him what the market was at, right? So, like, what we're seeing here is essentially a stare off. 3 years, 12.5 APY means average per year, right? We're hearing them say it. So the agent saying that, but then when Schoen talks to Mara, he tells Mara, but the agent was hemming and hawing, and it didn't sound like that when he was on the phone. But that doesn't mean that's not what the agent was doing, right? So now Shane is meeting with Brian Dable, I'm assuming, about this situation. I agree with you, Simeon. I don't think Shane ever had any intentions of making the deal.
For our roster, to get that Brian Purdy, financially, it's going to limit some other things we could do. So did you look at Runyon? Like,
They're listening to Beyonce while they're talking about the roster. They're talking about how they're keeping everything close to the vest. They're talking about Brian Burns and how Brian Burns is going to cost. They're doing a really cool scene of like showing poker and pushing their chips to the middle. That I can't show you because, as Simeon said, HBO probably paid Beyonce a nice paycheck. So right here they're talking about Brian Dable wanting to go interior offensive line. So they're saying that Illuminor was actually their number one guy. So they're talking about how they divvied up the money. Yeah, so Dable wanted to bring Tyrod back. Dable wanted to bring Tyrod back. Dable wanted him back. I was always wondering, like, why not re-sign Tyrod? But Dable wanted him back. So again, we're starting to see a lot of these moves are Joe Schoen moves that he either convinced people this was the right way to go, or he made it look. Now here comes Mara to talk about what's going on with everybody. So they offered things to 3 different offensive linemen. Right? It was Runyon, it was Illuminor, and I forgot the other name of the guy, but I'll tell it to you when they say it again. So that's him talking about Tyrod Taylor not Tyrod, but Saquon Barkley being the most, being the most popular player that they have in the system. And that was, by the way, that was Hunt.
Line is one of the biggest needs the Giants have this offseason. For Giants fans who are rebuilding that offensive line once and for all.
I really just did not like that Tyrod Taylor letting him go.
It sounds like the Jets are in a lot of players. We are Runyon and Luminor.
So the Jets are trying to get the same 2 guys. Yeah.
So let's go. Smart, tough, dependable.
Very interesting that the Jets
aren't bluffing.
That the Jets and the Jets were in on Runyon and were in on Illuminor, and they ended up getting Tyrod.
Does that get it done?
If the Giants better the Jets offer, they won't have enough left to sign guard Robert Hunt.
Yeah, do that. Hope the guarantee to what's he got, 17? Just match the 15.
So they've gone ahead and pushed Runyon more money, but it's going to take them out of the running for Hunt. So originally they wanted Runyon and Hunt to be the guards. This is interesting because I think this is why the Illuminor signing may have caught some people off guard and think that they were looking for a replacement or a guarantee for Evan Neal. So they got the deal done with Runyon.
Is a huge need for the New York Giants. He can play both right and left guard. He never missed a game with the Green Bay Packers, so that's an important pickup. Not a very simple.
They really talked about the fact that he was durable, right?
So the Giants continue their hunt for linemen, targeting Raiders tackle Jermaine Illuminor, but he won't come cheap.
He thinks if we go to 7, we can get him. Otherwise, Arizona wants him. What if we do a 3-year and 6? He wants a 2-year deal. Seriously? Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree, Jordan. You need consistency. I think that Evan Neal wasn't as bad. I talked about this on the first episode and maybe even on the second episode. I don't think Evan Neal was nearly as bad as many people think they were, but the interior of the offensive line was absolutely terrible. And so improving both guards are going to help Neal, but it's going to help everybody. JMS wasn't that great, but how much better would he have been if the guards inside were better?
But with no guarantee next year, that's huge. Okay, this gets it done. I believe this will get it done. Good job, Eddie. Well, no fire today.
So they've got all of the personnel people in the office, and different personnel guys are coming in with offers from different agents, and that then get going to Joe Schoen for him to say, does this get it done? Meaning, this is it.
Turns out Saquon Barkley will take too much out of the kitty. Other teams are simply offering him more money than New York wants to pay.
And now here's the fun part, because these teams are offering Saquon more money than the Giants want to offer him.
Good day for you. Good day to be Ed Barry. What's one gonna get? North of what you said? What would happen if you want a 25 guarantee? North of that? Again, we're not gonna go there. We're out.
So
Is it in the division?
So I want y'all to hear it. You can hear it right here. We're not going to go there. We're out.
Okay. All right.
So again,
You like the optionality of free agency, but the prices fucking suck.
The price isn't just the uncertainty. We have no control. No, we have no control. We make offers, do all the homework that we want. Stay until 5 morning doing scenarios. Well, I mean, think about all the meetings, all the film, here all weekend, like just to come up with these.
so I think that's the thing that I just really want people. I really want Giants fans, not just people. I want Giants fans to understand that siding with the organization is cool because you love your team, right? That's great. But villainizing the players for trying to get the most money they can in a game that's no guaranteed money and that you can be hurt tomorrow and get nothing, it's silly. So the $37.7 million deal that he signed with the Eagles, they gave them the chance to match it. Yeah, but Jordan, I want you to remember this. It's not what he did. It's what the Giants were not willing to do. Right? It stinks because they said, Joe Schoen said, hey, give us a chance to match. See? And Simeon, you're right. The narrative that that's been purported out there by a lot of the Eagles, a lot of the Giants people who are the mouthpieces for the Giants inside, they've led it to believe that Saquon Barkley just said no. But you can hear it on, if y'all are watching with me, y'all heard it with your own ears, you saw it with your own eyes. Saquon Barkley came back and said, hey, this is how much I would like, right? So it's like, what do you do? Now, Joe Schoen's talking about Xavier McKinney and the contract that he got from the Green Bay Packers. But that's my problem, right? Because this idea that, oh, the Eagles overpaid or Green Bay overpaid. No, the Eagles got one of the best backs in the league. Green Bay got one of the best safeties in the league. It's really that simple, right? It's really, and shout out to you, Mr. President. It's definitely like Shane was caught with his pants down. I don't think there's any doubt. Is any doubt about it. There's no way that Joe Schoen thought that Saquon Barkley was going to get $30-something million with an escalator that could put it up over 40. There's no way he thought McKinney was getting $60+ million out there. They rolled the dice and they came up snake eyes. Now they're changing their attention to Brian Burns, and it makes sense because they've struck out in those guys that are homegrown guys.
What we're talking about, Shane, is Brian Burns and what that means for what else we can do. Like, that's probably what you're getting. So you get a rupture. What does that look like?
I think Burns is a really good player.
They're talking about it with Shane Bowen right now. Right? They're talking about it with Shane Bowen. Like they're saying, hey, if we get you Brian Burns, that's probably all we're going to be able to do for you because of how much it's going to cost. And because they're going to have to give up draft capital to get him. So now they're showing a nice little highlight package of Brian Burns sacks. Hey, I want y'all to remember this, by the way, because everyone's come in and what they're saying now is, oh, like with Burns, don't forget that Brian Burns isn't the leading sack man on this team. That's still Kayvon Thibodeau with his 10.5 sacks that he had last year. Brian Burns, I believe, only had 8. So they're talking about the guys who all got big paydays, and now they're about to give Brian Burns a big payday. But remember, Kayvon Thibodeau, he's still there on the other side. I'm really excited about that combination. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited to see what happens when you've got 2 healthy, explosive DNs out there. Because I also think it'll be even better because now Azeez Ojulari doesn't have that pressure to play to be a day in. I mean, an every down defensive end now. Now he can be a situational pass rusher that'll keep him healthier until he can get back, right? Crazy. Just think about it. They offered him 80. They gave Burns $87.5 million guaranteed, but they wouldn't give Saquon Barkley $35 million. And the craziest part about it for me is that they're going to pay him what they would have had to pay Saquon Barkley in 1 year. And they weren't willing to pay Saquon. It's mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling to me. So right now they're showing them in the front office having to sit around and wait to hear back about the Burns thing. You got to remember, this is kind of like small wins but big losses right now. They won with getting Runyon. They won with getting Illuminor, both of those guys together, because they weren't able to sign Hunt because they had to give Runyon too much. So they won in that regard. But then they lost because they lost Saquon and they lost Xavier McKinney. So now they have to make this thing work with Brian Burns. They had to have some type of splash this offseason.
20 is like your heart was at max for 24/7, like 24 hours a day.
So now they're playing the waiting game. I think this is great drama that they've created with the waiting. They've got the entire front office in there, like the entire brain trust in there.
Daniel Thomas Morgan. What's up, buddy? Oh my God. What are we doing? What are we doing, Dan? Why do we need to add on a 7th, Dan? Like, you and I are going to be doing this a long time, hopefully. And like, we got the plays. I'm throwing in a 7th. Like, I need players too, Dan. Like, if we're picking 6, you guys would be picking 1. Like, let's just do what we said on the last one, and that works out. We mentioned the middle with some of your demands. Carolina gets 39-140 in 2025-5. The highest one, we get Burns in 165. Good? All right. I'm texting this to you right now.
So everybody is.
Whatever we need. If you can send me his number at some point, that way I can reach out to him. All right, bye.
Yeah, definitely Maris slow sipping on that. On that. That's funny. So now they're celebrating. They're celebrating because he was able to preserve the 7th round pick that Dan Morgan came in and won it at the end. They're celebrating getting him in. Spider-Man is back in New York. That's the headline. They got the guys out in the office and they're doing the little Spider-Man thing. That's hilarious. $5 years, $150 million. Now, if I want to be critical of something, and I haven't really talked about this before a lot, but they didn't have to pay Brian Burns that much money, right? They didn't actually have to make a move for Brian Burns. There were free agent DNs out there who were getting Brian Burns production. They probably just weren't as old, but you wouldn't have had to pay as much. So what happens, right? If you make the play to get Jadeveon Clowney, and now you put Clowney opposite of Kayvon Thibodeau. Yes, he's older. That's not a longer term play, but you would have saved a ton of money, and you would have been able to re-sign McKinney. You would have been able to re-sign Saquon Barkley, which I think would have made your team, stronger. Now, do I mind the Burns signing? No. I just think about the fact that they were just so willing and giddy to give him $150 million, but they weren't willing to give Saquon Barkley $38 million or $37 million. Like, they nickel and dimed their best player, and then they went out and paid a boatload of money to the guy that's never played a down for them, that they don't know if he's ever going to live up to that contract. And then they lose Tyrod Taylor. And it's funny too, because when other teams see the value in the guys, the way you don't see the value in the guys, it really does hurt. Now, once again, this is a Joe Schoen decision. He's trying to explain tomorrow why he didn't pay Tyrod money. He's telling them there's other guys for cheaper, right? But the problem is those other guys don't already know the offense. And it's interesting to me that Brian Dable said, hey, I want the same quarterback room as I had last year. So that if something happens, he already knows what to do. So now he's selling Drew Lock to Mara. And Joe Schoen's sell on why it wasn't important to re-sign Tyrod. It wasn't smart to re-sign Tyrod was the injury history. Come on, people. Like Joe Schoen, I know this is supposed to be like, this is like, to me, this hasn't painted him in a very good light. Yeah, Drew Lock has upside. He has talent, but he has been a turnover machine. He has done things in an inopportune way. They signed Drew Lock for 5 years. They went bargain basement to sign him. I mean, 1 year, $5 million. So they went bargain basement to sign him. And again, like, this is not what they wanted. Well, this is not what the head coach wanted. It's not what Mara wanted. This is what Joe Schoen wanted. Very important to remember when we start looking around and wondering why things are the way they are. Point to the person that you really are supposed to point to, right? Make sure you point to Joe Schoen. They've got Drew Lock signing his deal. Oh yeah, it is 100% Joe Schoen's team now. Like this has his fingerprints written all over it. So if things go well, and we all hope they go well, he can take a bow, right? That's the cool thing about it. If we're really being honest about it, right? If you gave me the chance to run the show, I'm going to run the show the way I want to run it. And if it doesn't work, then I know I lost doing it my way. Right now, they're getting pictures of all of the free agents that they signed. Illuminor, Runyon, and Devin Singletary. So they're showing them all get their uniforms and sign their contracts. It's funny when you see Brian Burns standing next to Brian Dable, because Brian Burns is so much bigger than Dable is, like just towers over him. It's one of those things. But I mean, they just gave Brian Burns the major bag, and he only has 1 year of double-digit sacks in his career. So they are betting on the potential of putting him next to elite level or combining him with other elite level talents.
So Sydney is like best friend with Dan Morgan's daughter.
Yeah.
So like when I come home half the night, they're
They're on the
FaceTime.
phone.
Yeah,
If
so
I'm on
we're
the phone, it's most likely with Lexi.
yeah. So when the trade was going down, he's trying to squeeze me for another 7th round pick. I'm like, Dan, really? Come on, man.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to injuries, Jordan. I think everything always comes down to injuries. We see Joe Schoen's wife, who still looks really young. I think we forget that Joe Schoen's not that old. And so like he is still learning on the fly how to do this from this seat. He's been the guy next to the guy, and now this is his 3rd year of being the guy, you know? So, yeah. They're showing some home life with Shane. And again, I think this is the part that I like to see a lot. Him with his wife and his kids playing Uno. getting to know a little bit more. His son's there. His son's looks like a teenager. Yeah. So his son's talking about how he has to like answer to friends and people that he sees that tells them, that says, hey, you know, who's your dad going to sign or who's your dad going to draft? So this kind of brings the phase one. They talked about that being phase one of, you know, the offseason. And now they're gearing up for phase two, but between phase one and phase two, they show them getting a little bit of family time in. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 3 is in the books. How we feeling? Let me hear it out there. What are you thinking out there? How you feeling out there? We know now. We can put it all to bed. This is not on Saquon Barkley, and don't give me he should have signed the deal in 2022, because if he signs the deal in 2022, you have to remember he's trying to get longevity. So in essence, what the franchise tag did was allow him to get paid like an elite level running back in 2023. And then he was able to get the 3-year deal that takes care of 2024, 2025, and 2026. If he would have signed the extension in 2022, he only gets to 2025. And the way that language was probably set up, he wouldn't have been guaranteed as much money and probably wouldn't have had a chance to see the back end of that, because they would have cut him because they felt like he made too much money. Like, this is all on Joe Schoen. And now, like we said, it's exciting for me because, as Simeon said, this is sink or swim time. This is the time where now, Joe Schoen, your fingerprints are all over this, right? Your fingerprints are all over this. You get to decide how this team is going to do. So when this team doesn't achieve, don't put it on the players who left or the players who aren't here, because those players not being here are directly because Joe Schoen and the brain trust that was with him. And maybe Joe Schoen himself said, nah, I don't want to do it. If you stay tuned, we're going to be talking about all of the players that have left via free agency since Joe Schoen has taken command. I think it's an interesting conversation. I'll probably get someone on to talk about it on my Thursday show. So make sure that you check out a Giant issue, right here at New York Giants on SI. Check out the Giant Issue podcast 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 30 minutes or more on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, it'll probably be reduced down to about 30 minutes. But come out or pop in and listen to it. Tell me what you think. Leave comments. Tell me what you want to talk about. We try to focus in on whatever that issue is to discuss that day. I'm looking forward to giving you this on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. Once the season starts, that Monday episode is going to be fantastic, because we'll be coming off of a football game and I'll be giving you my reactions to the football game, but mostly giving you my one big takeaway, my one big issue that I had during that game, and focusing in on that. That's what it's here for. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will be recaps to the week that was, or the game that was. Thursday we'll turn the page, and Friday we'll preview the game coming that week. If there's a Thursday game, then the Thursday pod is fun and the Friday pod is fun, right? If there's a Thursday game, then the Thursday game The Thursday pod gets you ready for the Thursday night game. The Friday pod is the instant reaction to the Thursday night game. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we start it all over again. It's been really fun curating this podcast for you so that I can bring that to you Monday through Friday. I really do appreciate the people who have been hanging out with me for the entire time of our watch party. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you feel like it's informative. If you're watching along as I watch it, great. If you're not watching along and you're just watching me, hopefully you get a sense of the excitement that comes with all of these decisions, because it is exciting, right? It is exciting to see how your team is manicured in the offseason. Some really fine things. We almost had Hunt, right? It was almost Runyon and Hunt, but you had to pay Runyon a little bit too much money, and then you didn't get Hunt, right? So I think it's a beautiful thing. I look forward to you all coming out and hanging out again. Simeon, we appreciate your input. Jordan, appreciate your input. Mr. President, shout out to you. I am Coach Gene Clemons. I have a giant issue. Make sure that you tune in every day for that podcast, and then make sure you join me next Tuesday for episode 4, Hard Knocks with the New York Giants. Till then, peace.